The Honourable Pierre Yang.
Thank you, President. President, in March, I talked about a few places in Canada and New Zealand bearing the word Chinaman in their names. It is a sign of social progress when there are more people, and I hasten to add, people of all backgrounds, start raising this issue in their respective communities. And today I want to turn my attention to place names bearing the word Chinaman in Australia. And I want to refer to some of the content in an article written by Ms. Jen Tent, which was published in a newsletter known as Placenames Australia in its September 2019 edition. In that article, Jen correctly and helpfully pointed out that place names, and I quote, can reveal much about a region's historical, geographical, social, and linguistic background, and they also offer insights into the belief and value systems of the name givers, as well as the political and social circumstances at the time of naming. Now, President, the first documented person of Chinese cultural heritage arriving in Australia was by the name, a gentleman by the name Mark Sai-Ying or Zhuang Shai-Ying. He came as a free settler in 1818. The gold rushes in the 1850s attracted many people around the world, including people of Chinese cultural heritage. By 1858, there were 42,000 people of Chinese cultural heritage arrived in Victoria. Racial prejudice and discrimination and economic competition contributed to anti-Chinese riots, including the Buckland riots in Victoria and the Laming Flat riots in New South Wales, which saw much loss of lives and livelihoods of people of Chinese cultural heritage. And the general racial prejudice and racism also resulted in many Chinese immigration restriction acts passed in all colonies around Australia. This historical background, President, gives us the context for the reason why there are so many places in Australia with the name Chinaman in its full name. According to Jen's article, there are 325 toponyms bearing the word Chinaman, of which 113 of them in New South Wales, 60 in Victoria, 48 in Queensland, and 22 in Western Australia, 22 in other states. Thanks to her research, it is also revealed that some places in fact carry a Chinese personal name, such as Ah Chung Island in WA, Fu Chou Inlet and Ma Mong Chin Dam in Tasmania, and some other places. Nevertheless, these are far and few between when comparing to the places in Australia carrying the derogatory term Chinaman. And President, according to Jen, in relation to the small number of toponyms based on Chinese personal names, she said, on the face of it, this is perhaps surprising given the long-standing Chinese presence in Australia, as well as their social, cultural, and economic contribution to the nation. Nevertheless, when we consider the anti-Chinese sentiments shown towards the Chinese throughout the 19th and 20th century, it is perhaps not so surprising at all. If my supposition is correct, it may also explain the relative abundance of place names we encounter that contain simply China or, more often, Chinaman. Using the generic term for Chinese people in place names rather than personal names, I think, underscores the anti-Chinese sentiments of the time. President, I think Roger Marpoy from Canada would agree with me that Jen was absolutely on the money. As I discussed on the 15th and 30th of March 2023, I thanked Roger and the Camel community in Canada for choosing inclusion and social justice over prejudice and exclusion by renaming a derogatory mountain with derogatory name, Chinaman's Peak, to Ha Ling Peak, to honor the story of Ha Ling and his achievement in climbing that mountain in a short space of time. President, I want to also share a story I've learned very recently in the Chaffee County in the state of Colorado in the States. That community successfully lobbied their local authority to change one of their gulches, beautiful places in Colorado, from Chinaman's Gulch to Yansing Gulch. And the reason I want to bring this example today is to show an outline that local community can work together with each other and persuade the local authority to make the change. Like Harling Peak renaming story, this one is also a very inspiring one. In fact, the Chaffee County's governing body is a three-member board, all elected positions, initially opposed to the idea of changing the name. But after commissioning a community consultation process, they changed their mind. In fact, initially, the commissioners thought the word Chinaman was a benign title, and the name acknowledged a Chinese person who made parts of the railway, likely to have lived in the local area. However, after hearing the witnesses' testimonies, one of the commissioners, Keith Baker, said, "I think the general feeling among the members of the community is it would be appropriate if the intent truly was to honor the contribution of Chinese people." And they agreed that with the testimony that the term Chinaman was used in a contemptuous terms, and the term is used in a derogatory fashion. Now, President, this is a contrast to a Queensland situation. In response to questions from Daily Mail Australia, the mayor for Longreach Regional Council said he's not expecting any change to a place called Chinaman Creek in Longreach, and these are his words. It would depend on whether anyone was offended by that, but I think you have to be reasonable. That one, he refers to the word Chinaman, probably wouldn't be offensive to many people. It is a little bit subject to interpretation. And as far as I'm aware, President, there was no community push in that community to have a name change. Now, President, I also want to just mentioning a quick research that I've conducted on my phone. So I've got two navigation apps. One is the Apple Maps, which is supported by TomTom. I think that's the company that actually provides the technology. And also Google Maps. I've actually searched the word Yansing Gulch, and I found nothing in Google Maps. And I actually found out in Apple Maps, the company has updated replaced the old name, Chinaman's Gulch, to Yansing Gulch. So well done, Apple and TomTom. But if anyone is listening from Google, it's time to update your data and get on with that, please. President, as we have seen from these examples, as I have mentioned on the 15th of March, 30th of March, and earlier today, it is clear that if they are concerned members of a community, and if they are calling for change, and if they are working with the authorities, and bring the wider community with them on this journey, with the clear understanding of the purpose not to cancel history, but to restore history to its true state and respect those who come before us. Most people would prefer a more inclusive and respectful method to commemorate the pioneers who have from all different backgrounds. Presidents, with these words, I will conclude my remarks today, and I will seek a further opportunity to discuss place names in Western Australia bearing the word Chinaman in their names.
The Honourable